Will Margrave stared up at the imposing brick building and narrowed his eyes. Yet unlike with dogs, people, and even the occasional horse, his legendary glare made no impression whatsoever on the weathered edifice. It remained indifferent to his mood, which currently hovered somewhere between extreme irritation and reluctant curiosity. Around him, the pavement teemed with passers-by, but everyone instinctively gave him a wide berth. They may not have known he was the Duke of Ellis, but Will always made sure his bearing radiated a certain amount of importance, wealth, and power. Such gravitas either provided an advantage or acted as a deterrent, depending on what the situation called for. Given that he was currently standing in front of a police station, he needed all the outrageous privilege an aristocrat such as himself was bred to expect. He pulled the note that had upended his day from his pocket and read it again, though he had already memorized every word. A Miss P. Atkinson has requested your assistance. She is currently in my custody at the Bow Street Police Station. Please come at your earliest convenience. Regards, Detective Inspector Holland. Phoebe Atkinson was the younger sister of his old friend Alex, who was away on a business trip in New York with their father until the end of the month. Given that, it was understandable why Phoebe had reached out to him. What remained to be seen was what kind of trouble a schoolteacher could have gotten into. Phoebe had always been rather impetuous as a girl, but that had been mere childhood mischief, stolen puddings and soiled shoes. Nothing that required the intervention of the police. She's a menace, Alex had once seethed, after Phoebe snuck into her room. She had been looking for a book Alex insisted she didn't have, and accidentally knocked over an open bottle of ink in the process, ruining a treatise on whatever arcane subject Alex had been engrossed in that week, and ensuring that Phoebe's stained fingers marked her as the culprit. A faint smile tugged at Will's lips, as he recalled the absolute melee that followed. Apparently, age and wisdom had not dampened Phoebe's riotous spirit. He then rolled his shoulders back and ascended the steps. Time for the Duke to get to work. When he gave his name to the gangly young officer manning the front desk, the lad's jaw went slack for a moment. "We were sure she was mad, asking for a duke." Will paused for a moment and raised an eyebrow. "No. Not mad." The lad then sprung from his seat and gave a quick bow. "Right this way, sir. I mean, my lord." "Actually, it's your grace," Will drawled. "Of course," the lad said with a blush. "Your grace." Will would always be grateful for the many ways his title made it easier to pass through the world, but that didn't make the gross unfairness of it all easier to swallow. However, he had learned long ago it was best to keep such complaints to himself, as those who weren't at the top of the social ladder were often the most invested in it. Instead, he followed the young officer at a leisurely pace, as dukes did not rush for anyone, save the Queen. Though the station was bustling with activity, he could still feel every eye in the room fix upon him as he passed by. They continued down a dingy hallway that smelled of damp, and stopped in front of a closed door. "The jail's nearly full, and Inspector Holland said it didn't feel right, putting her in with the rest of the rabble. He's familiar with the school she works at, you know. Does a lot of good for the neighbourhood girls, so she's in his office," the young man explained as he unlocked the door. "I'll go and fetch him for you." "My thanks." The lad gave another awkward bow and scurried off. Now, thankfully alone, Will glowered at the closed door. He was hesitating, though he couldn't account for why. It was only Phoebe Atkinson on the other side, not some man-eating lion. And yet, Will couldn't ignore the distinct sense of unease buzzing under his skin. He had worked very hard over the years to remove the element of surprise from his life, and thus rarely found himself in unfamiliar situations he couldn't completely control. This, however, was the closest he had come to facing the unknown in quite some time. Will did not much care for it.